Hi everybody. My name is Lisa Brando, and if you're new to my channel, a lot of people have been asking me how I color on my Procreate app, and I want to show you here. A lot of times I'm a colored pencil artist. I use regular colored pencils, but a lot of times I have been using my iPad, and it's really fun, and I like it a lot. And I want to kind of show you guys how I've been doing a lot of my art on here. You can just kind of watch. Learning how to do it is pretty easy. I just I just keep it really simple. I just used a regular soft airbrush. There's a lot of ways that people use the iPad for digital coloring, layers and all the brushes, and there's a million different things that you can do with it. I mean, it's awesome. It's like having an art studio completely in one thing, you know. So it's a lot of fun. I discovered it when I was in the hospital. Anyway, so this is the way I do it. Maybe traditional people that use it digitally maybe not like the way I do it, because I just, color it like this way. So anyway, the first thing I do is when I bring my picture in, I have to set it as a reference, because otherwise it'll ruin the bottom. Okay, so in other words, I gotta keep it so that my original lines don't get ruined. So I set it as a reference, and I set a new layer, and I set it to multiply. That's all you have to do. As soon as you get a new layer, make it to multiply, and you're ready to go. So this is your coloring layer, and then you just start coloring. It's that easy. So then I'm just gonna start, and I guess just watch. Over here is the pressure. This is your brush size, how big or small your brush is, and then here is your opacity, how it's full opacity, or how full, you know what opacity means. So you guys could just watch, and I think that's what I'll do. I'll just make you guys just watch it, and that's just watch and learn, I guess. I don't know. This is just the way I do it. So I'm just gonna color and just not even talk. I'm just gonna color and just kind of, I'm not even gonna play any music. I'm just gonna relax and just kind of color. This is how I do it. A lot of you guys want to know how I create this art, and this is kind of what I do. It takes me a while before I kind of start getting into it, though. Like, in other words, I gotta get the feel of what I'm actually doing here. And I never really know. I never really know yet. And what I mean by that is I have to get the feel, like, what's the word for it? The inertia of it all. I gotta get into it. Like, I'm not really into it yet because I'm just starting. As soon as I get into the picture and I get the feel of it, and I kind of know where I'm at and what I'm doing, and like my head is into it, then everything just kind of moves along. Like right now I'm just kind of starting, so I have to get into what I'm doing here. And since I don't know yet, it's going to take me a minute just to get my little bearings going. Make sure my brushes are working the way I want, and everything's going the way I want, and things are moving the way I want. And I gotta remember what I want to do, because I don't know. I gotta get the feel of stuff. As soon as I kind of get that going. And that's kind of how my mind works too. It's just as soon as I get things rolling, then I kind of know a little bit more where I'm at. And it looks weird now. I know I get it, but it's not always like that. This streamlines too much, and if you don't know what that means, you'll know after a while. So yeah, much better. So I'm just shading. It's not a big thing. Like I say, I'm not into it yet. I don't really know. I don't really yet quite have the feel for it yet, because I'm just starting. So it might take me a minute. And that's just totally normal for me anyway when I first start. Because I like kind of never really know what I'm doing yet. I'm just kind of trying to figure out where I'm going with it and what I'm doing. I'm not really into it yet, you know. Kind of takes a minute till I kind of figure out what I'm doing. And that's kind of like it is when you first start a picture. You kind of really don't know. You don't really know where you're going to go yet with it. You just kind of start. And then maybe once you know where you're going with it, then you maybe can move along a little bit better with it. Just trying to create a look of a highlighting. I want it lighter on the bottom, and then I want the awning to kind of look like it's shaded at the top and then lighter, lighter towards the tips, So I'm trying to create that look. Like that. Look there. So now, let's see if I like that look. Okay, it's okay. And then I think we'll give it some, let's go with give it some, let's go with some blue. Go for some blue drapes in here, huh? What do you think? Some nice blue drapes. And then, so don't worry, I'm not going to do the whole thing on this video because it would be forever long. I'll just maybe speed it up or something. Alright, so then when I'm doing stuff like this, I just kind of, maybe I'll show you a couple little tricks. How about that? Like the way I do some of these more complicated things, like when I do a highlight, maybe I will go that, and then like, okay, there is times when I do use layers. So like if I don't want to mix a color together, I will create a layer. Like, I'll show you. Let's see what I mean for an example. Hold on. Highlights. Alright, I'll show you what I mean. So hold on. I was going to say, let's see. Let me see if there was something on here I could show you. For example, let's show you a little trick here. Let's say I was going to make a pink, simple pink flower, let's just say. Let's say I would grab one of these, let's say one of this, right? Here's a little trick. Watch this. You could just go make something like this, right? Now, if you wanted to create an interesting little look, you could just raise your pressure, kind of raise your pressure up, and make sure your brush is big enough, and you could just kind of, well, that's not a good example here. There's so much I could teach you guys, but it depends on here. Probably too much. Hold on. There's so much I could teach you. I just don't want to bore you. You know, there's so much. I wish you could have watched me doing the last one I did with the last nice little town I just did. It was pretty cool. You can make your own like flower petals. You get to make a look of flowers if you want. Just go like that, and just by bringing it down, it creates your own little look of petals. If you wanted to do something like that, you can do that. Let's see what other trick I could teach you. Maybe with a leaf. Leaves are easy. If you wanted to do a leaf, leaves are really easy. Just grab a leaf color, and let's say you just fill a leaf in, right? Just fill in a leaf like this, and then just grab a yellow tip, and then you just put the tip in like so, and then just smudge it down. Now it just depends on the pressure. The pressure here that you use is really important, because if you have too much pressure, let me see if I can get this out. So if you have, let's say you wanted to put some yellow in here, right? If you have too much pressure, right? Look, and you're trying to blend it in with your smudger. Okay, you see, it smears it too much. It messes everything up. But if you, hold on. So if you put your yellow in, okay, and you bring this opacity way down here, okay, way down here, and then you want to try to smudge it, you see, and you just switch your brush maybe to a nice manageable size. Then when you try to blend it, it blends a lot easier. So then you can blend in, you know, when you want to start doing your blending, it blends a lot easier because your opacity's down, you know, you've got a nice brush size. So you got to really kind of play around with your the brush size and the opacity level so that it's manageable. So these two are very important when you're working with everything. So use your airbrush, the brush size, and the opacities, and those are the ones that you kind of work with when you're doing things, because when it comes to doing stuff like this, if you wanted to drag and make petals, you know, or whatever it is that you're, you know, creating or doing or whatever, it's all important. So, but yeah, so that's basically how I do it. Is now if you want to put on full color, like when you're just laying in a color, you can have it on full. But like for blending and stuff, you want to make sure that this might be down a little bit when you're doing your blending, so that when you're blending this down in and you're blending, you see, it's not so much pressure, so you can make a nice soft blend. See, and then you can blend it into the however you want to blend it. So these two pressures are what's important when you're trying to do any types of blends. Okay, I mean, obviously I'm not going to color it like this. I just kind of wanted to show you some tricks. Let's see, what else can I show you? I guess that's basically it. Oh, layers. Okay, so like let's say I was working on here and I didn't want to mess up this. Okay, but let's say I was working on here and I didn't want to mess this up, and if I didn't want to get and smear the red into these drapes. Okay, so in this case I would create a new layer. So I would just go layer, and I would say new layer, and again I would hit multiply to make sure that the multiply layer was on, For some reason, that's just the way it works, so that you could see the lines underneath. And then what that will do is, let's say again, I was gonna, make my, put in some blue drapes or whatever. So I would get the blue. By the way, if you just put your finger, whatever color you wanted to pick, you can just get the color, and it automatically will put it there. So then what I could do is, let's say I just filled this whole thing in blue, right? The whole thing. Then, even though it got on here, it wouldn't matter, because then I could just take my eraser tool and whatever got on that one area, I could just erase that off. So it's all protected. That whole area is protected. And then what I always do is once I filled in, let's say I was working on just this area right here was all I was concerned about on that one layer. Once I filled in that one little section that I was working on, like if I was just worried about, let's just say those drapes right there, right? And I would just kind of go back in with my eraser, and then I would clean up everything around just those drapes, because that's all I was worried about, was just that drapes. Everything was cleaned up, and let's say I wanted to, let's say I wanted to make it a little bit lighter, so I would come over into my, maybe get a little lighter. Maybe I wanted to put in a little bit of a, maybe put a highlight in there, and I wanted to blend it out. Let's just say, okay, or whatever I wanted to do. So let's say that was done. Once I knew that this was done and everything was cleaned up around it, then I would go back down here and I would hit the next layer, and then I would just hit, and I would hit merge down. So now everything's all back to normal again. All the layers are all back to normal, and then I would just continue working again. Just like normal. I would just continue working on my picture. And then if I got stuck again, and let's say I wanted to work right in here on this, but I didn't want to ruin these two drapes. So let's say I wanted to make the middle, I don't know, just some whatever weird color. Let's just say I just wanted to work on the drapes right here, right? But I didn't want to ruin these. So I'd go and I'd create a new layer, and I would go to multiply again, and then I would just, I'm just going to make a mess out of here just so you can understand what I mean. And I would just make some drapes. Here's some drapes, right? And then I would go ahead and I would say, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's say, okay, let's give it some highlights here on these drapes, and let's do this, and let's do, some blending, and blah, 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 blah. And let's say, okay, now we really like those drapes. Okay, cool. Now, what we got to do, though, is we're going to say, okay, well, we need to get rid of all the stuff that we screwed up around it. So just go and say all we cared about was making sure that we only wanted the drapes, right? Everything else around it, we got to make sure that's all we cared about. We don't care about this because, we can go back over, like this part doesn't matter. But the drapes were protected because that's what we cared about. Then we can go back down here again, and then I just go down and I hit merge down, and everything's all back to normal again. All right, and you can go just back to coloring like normal. So by creating those, an extra layer, it just protects stuff around it. And again, like if you wanted to protect, let's say you wanted to put this background in. Well, in this case, let's say you wanted to put a background in. You could just drop a background in, and that you didn't need to put in a new layer there because nothing got ruined. But if you wanted to, well, you'll figure it out as you're coloring around. You'll just see, like if there's something you ever want to protect from something else, just add a new layer, work on what you want to work on without ruining it. After you've completed it, erase anything that got onto the other stuff you didn't want to get messed up, and then just merge it down, and then just keep coloring, and then then that's it. So yeah, so that's basically how I do it. I'm trying to see if there's any other really tricks. Not really. I mean, if you fill in stuff, you fill it in. No, not really. You just color away. I mean, there's a lot of coloring tricks, of course. I mean, shading, and you have to have the art, the coloring and blending, and if you want to do pants, you still have to know your basic coloring techniques. You'd still have to know how to, color in normal with your shading. You would want to still have the, like, for example, if you wanted to make him have blue pants, then maybe you would have to what I would do is I go in here and then I would start, maybe you wanted to add some, make it lighter, so if you wanted to have it like lighter up in here, I just scribble it in first. It doesn't matter how neat it is. Let's say it doesn't really matter, because what you're gonna do is you just want to put the tones in, because once you start blending it, it's kind of like mixing paint. You know, once you start mushing it around, you know, it just kind of comes together. So I just throw in the colors that I want, and then it just kind of blends in. So if I wanted a light there, and then let's say I needed it a really darker, so then I would grab a darker color, let's just say, and I would just throw in some darker down in here. I'm just, you know, doing this really fast for demonstration purposes. And then you see, then I would just blend that in, and then I would have the darker down in here. See? So I mean, you still have to have the technique of, as far as, you know, knowing how to throw in the colors. And let's say, oh well, I really want it a lot lighter up in here, so then just grab some light, just throw it in any old way, and then just, you know, you use your smudger tool to use that, and then just blend it in. Just blend in the colors. You know, however you want to start working with it. You just blend it around. Use your stylus to kind of push all the pixels around. I call it little paint or little pixels or whatever, until you're completely happy with how it looks. And you just start coloring away. And it's so fun and so easy, because if you need to really get into details, unlike colored pencils where, like, my eyes are so bad, you can enlarge it, so you can really get in there, you know. You know, you can see as close up as you want. And then if you want to see how it looks from far away, you know, you can see how, let's see, how does it look from far away? Oh, it looks great from far away. Okay, I can see what it looks like. And, you know, if you want to get close up, you want to, you know, it's great. I mean, working with it is really cool. But there's also other really cool brushes too. I mean, if you really want to, you know, get cool, you know, like say, oh, well, you know, you want to try, there are other brushes that this thing has, you know, like if you want to do highlights and stuff, I mean, like, you know, like weird sparkles and highlights, and, you know, I mean, if you want to add highlights, like, I mean, there's so many things that it'll do if you really wanted to take the time to learn all the different tricks and all the, you know, digital stuff that this has to offer. I don't use them. I just keep it really simple so that mine looks just like real colored pencils. I just use a basic airbrush. That's it. And that's it. I don't use any textures. I don't use nothing. Once in a great while, I will maybe go and grab, there's one brush in here. It's called a grunge brush. I don't even know where it is because I barely ever use it. And it's only for, I found it just for, maybe just to make a little bit of a texture. I think it was here, textures, I think it's in here. Yeah, this one here, grunge. And it's only because, like, let's say I wanted to put, let's say this one here, watch. And because it puts a little bit of a texture, see this here? I don't know if you can see it or not. But it just puts a little bit of a texture in the background, see that? So once in a while, like if I was doing maybe a roof or something, or a, you know, like in a nice little town, which I'm doing now, like a building or something, it kind of puts a nice, like a patchy type of a background. So once in a while, that little grunge brush is kind of cool for that. And then especially if you mix it with a bunch of different colors, you know, together, it gives a really cool effect if you mix a, you know, like a light and a dark together, you know, see how it really gives a really cool effect. So the grunge brush is really cool. And then, like I say, if you go to Hazelong is she's really good. She has this soft brightening sparkles and these brushes that give these really cool highlights, especially like if you want to make things glow, like lights and stuff like that. These sparkle brushes and all these like cool, really cool, just sparkly stuff and just glowing, and I don't know, like if you want to do fireflies or backgrounds or whatever. So there's a lot you can really do with this app. So I just kind of wanted to give you just a kind of a really brief kind of thing on how I actually create my Procreate art. So that's kind of how I do it. I know I went through it real fast because it wasn't a you know, coloring video, but I just kind of wanted to show you basically kind of how I do it. So hopefully if you have an iPencil and an iPad, that's how I do it. If you have any questions, let me know and I'll try to do my best to answer them. So I hope you enjoyed this really quick short video. Leave your comments on there and I'll try to answer all your questions, okay? Ciao for now. Bye-bye.